Today's date is March 8th, 2026. We have another Israeli-Palestinian Confederation simulation with Professor Yakov Rabkin. We are proposing a federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine because the conflict in Israel-Palestine has been created by humans. It's not a natural disaster. It's not earthquake or a thunderstorm. The whole conflict was created by humans, and we believe that humans creating a federal government in Israel-Palestine could resolve this conflict once and for all. We have a constitution for the federal government. If you go to ipconfederation.org and go to Constitution, you'll be able to read the Constitution of what we are proposing. We are proposing a federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine together. So here is the Constitution. It's in 3 languages. We are proposing a government that would separate religion from government, that would be equal to the Palestinians and the Israeli people together, who will have a legislative branch with 300 parliament members, an executive branch with the president and vice president, 1 Palestinian, 1 Israeli, rotating in 2 years, and a judicial branch for Palestinians and Israelis, in which Palestinians and Israelis will be together as equal. Our guest today is Professor Yakov Rabkin. Yakov M. Rabkin graduated from the Leningrad State University and completed postgraduate studies in the history of science at the Academy of Science of the USSR in Moscow. Since 1973, he has been professor of history at the Université de Montréal. His research on the interaction between science and technology and the relationship between science, politics, and religion has earned him international recognition. His commentary on global affairs has appeared in print and electronic media, as well as on radio and television in several countries. He is fluent in 5 languages and is frequently invited to speak at universities and Jewish communities around the world. He has written several books and hundreds of articles on Israel, Zionism, and Judaism, including A Threat from Within, a history of Jewish opposition to Zionism, which was published in 14 languages. What is Modern Israel, published in 6 languages, and Judaism, Islam, and Modernite. In recent months, Professor Rabkin has published 2 concise and thought-provoking books in English, Israel in Palestine and Zionism Decoded in 101 quotes. His work continues to stimulate serious discussion internationally. Notably, Israel in Palestine was recently discussed by Professor Jeffrey Sachs on his book club podcast, bringing Professor Rabkin's analysis to an even wider audience. These books are also available in several other languages. Just hours before the recent Israeli-U.S. strike on Iran, Professor Rabkin wrote an article reflecting on the Jewish holiday of Purim, a piece that, in light of unfolding event, has taken on broader and more universal resonance. His ability to connect history, religion, and contemporary geopolitics offers perspective that is both deeply informed and urgently relevant. I also got another article from him about 2 hours ago on the war that is going on between Israel and Iran, the United States, Israel, and Iran. and you may be able to talk to him about that article. On March 22nd, we will have Dr. Hussein Al-Dik, who is a Palestinian researcher, academic, and expert in international relations. And on April 12th, we will have another simulation with Elijah Kallenberg and Jad Hashem of Atinda International, uniting Jews, Arabs, Israelis, and Palestinians on college campuses for peace building. We are conducting a simulation. This is not a lecture. We are demonstrating how a federal government could thread the needle, meaning that it could pass legislation that would be acceptable, politically acceptable to both the Palestinian and the Israeli governments, because it would be supported by the people of Israel and Palestine, who have given legitimacy and the responsibility to the federal government to deal with issues in a mature, equal, and rational way. We are asking you to use the chat for questions, or you can ask your question. Nasir is usually here to translate the comments into questions. He's not here today, but you can just ask the questions at any time. Please ask questions. If you have comments to make, you're also welcome to make those comments, and I'll try to translate your comments to a question. This is a short video that explains the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation vision. It's 2 minutes long.
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations. And instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, a common third government between the Israeli and Palestinian citizens, specifically designed to foster peace, tolerance, and economic prosperity between the two nations. Here's how it works. First off, both Israel and Palestine will keep their respective governments. Israel's Knesset and the Palestinian National Authority will remain unchanged. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, IPC, will be a third entity acting as a unifying agent between the two. The IPC will comprise 300 parliament members elected from 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Above them will preside a president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian. In order for the IPC to pass a law, it will require a 55% majority from its Israeli representatives, as well as a 55% majority from its Palestinian representatives, thereby preventing either side from monopolizing the legislature. Of course, the IPC won't undermine the political power of either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. At any time, Israel or Palestine may veto a law passed by the IPC. If neither side vetoes, the law is passed. And the two nations are another step closer to resolution. Please help us make this a reality. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. We might speak different languages, but we all mean the same thing.
So we are actually simulating what we just saw on the video. Let's take a pre-simulation survey. Do you support a federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine? Please vote at this time. Do you support or do you oppose? If you don't know what it is, then you should vote no. If you're against it, vote no. But if you know what it is, then you should, and you support, then vote yes. Giving you 10 more seconds to vote. Please publish the votes. 100% voted yes, 11 out of 11. Some people did not vote. I did not vote because I'm not able to vote as the host, and Dan is not able to vote. And other people using the phones also are not able to vote. But we have 100% vote for yes. We are not following definitions. So if you ask us, are you a confederation or federation? We are both. We are creating definition, and the definitions for the federal government or confederation government that we are proposing is what's in the Constitution, which is at ipconfederation.org. This is the heart of the simulation. We are assuming, we are making assumptions that these items are achievable and have been achieved. So from now on, we are pretending that those items on the board that you see right now have been achieved. The first one is that we were able to obtain substantial amount of money to not substantial in the relevant to the billions of dollars that are being spent on the wars in the last 3 years, but substantial for us to create a platform for people to sign up to vote and to sign up to be parliament members and to be able to vote. So there are 15.5 million people in Israel, Palestine. We are assuming that they were given, with the exception of children, the right to vote, regardless of their religion or nationality, in the entire area of the West Bank and Gaza and Israel. We are assuming that 5 million people have voted. 3 million Palestinians have voted and 2 million Israelis voted. So we are just pretending, what if we were able to achieve those assumptions? Would that lead to peace in Israel, Palestine? And the other assumption is that 300 parliament members were elected in 300 districts. I will ask you, the audience, now to convert and become parliament members, either Palestinian or Israeli. And each parliament member, each one of you, will have to assume that you are representing 52,000 people in your district. Before I turn to Professor Rabkin to ask his comments or questions about the assumptions, does anyone have any comments or questions about these assumptions? Rob, go ahead, Rob.
Hello, thanks, Joseph. Am I correct in thinking that the wording might have changed on the first bullet point, because you say that $100 million was just spent, which implies that we haven't got anything left over. And I know usually we talk about the amount of money available for certain activities.
You are correct. We just spent $100 million, and we are assuming that having a historical election of where 300 parliament members have been elected, and if they accept the Constitution, that will help us bring a lot more money to run the government. But you are correct. We just spent $100 million. Yes. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's go to Professor Rabkin. Do you have any comments or questions about these assumptions?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate the effort of bridging differences between Israelis, or non-Arab Israelis, and Arab Palestinians between the sea and the river. I think it's very laudable. And when I saw your introductory 2 minutes video, I thought about a Talmudic story of two brothers, one of whom had a lot of children, and the other one didn't have children, but had quite a bit of money, and they shared the land that their father left them. So there was a border between them. And at night, the brother who had children would move the poles to increase the territory of his brother, thinking, well, my brother doesn't have any children, at least he'll have more land. It'll be some kind of consolation for him. But the other brother did precisely the same thing. He moved the pole to increase the territory of his brother, saying, well, he doesn't have much money, so many children, he needs more land. And the Talmud concludes, this is the place where the the temple in Jerusalem was built. That was a place of unconditional love. And I think this is a very important introduction to what you're doing. So far, I have really very little to contribute, except to say that it's a wonderful idea. I think that it may lead eventually to, from this confederation, perhaps to a more flexible arrangement, but it doesn't really matter. What is remarkable in your idea is that there is peace between the two groups and there is equality, at least political equality. The experience of South Africa shows that political equality does not necessarily translate into economic equality, but at least it's a step forward. So I'm looking forward to hearing the debates, and if I have something to contribute, I'll be very happy to do so.
Yakov, do you doubt or do you believe that these assumptions are achievable?
I think they are achievable. I don't know what the timeline would be. And I think it is a very important antidote to the cynicism that pervades much of the debate about Israel, and particularly within Israel, where the emphasis on force has been paramount for over a century. And this at least creates a possibility of relating to Palestinians as equal human beings. That would be a real new thing for Israelis.
Okay, you mentioned that these assumptions are achievable, and I'm very happy that you said that. And I was planning to make the announcement later on, maybe in a week or two, but since you said what you said, we are actually moving forward to make these assumptions achievable. We are negotiating with two major voting companies in Europe, very reputable voting companies in Europe, to actually help us conduct the election. Hopefully, within a month, we will be able to, or even shorter, we will be able to decide which company is going to do it. The discussion is that they will have 3 months, and these are companies that have conducted hundreds of online voting, including for states, including for major organizations. They have a lot of experience. The discussion is that they will be able to complete the platform for election within 3 months. And we will have 1 year for the people of Israel and Palestine to register to vote and register to become parliament and candidates and president. And then we will have 3 months after that for the people of Palestine and Israel to vote to elect a federal government. So since you said it's achievable, I was encouraged to tell you that. So, this is the area of Israel and Palestine that we are speaking about. And at this point, I am going to be asking you, the audience, to choose whether you wish to be a Palestinian parliament member or an Israeli parliament member representing your district. Keep in mind that your district may be exclusively Palestinian. So, for instance, the area of Gaza will have about 41 parliament districts, and most of the area will be exclusively Palestinian districts. The West Bank will have mixed districts because Palestinians and Israelis live there together, and Jerusalem will have mixed district. So I am asking you at this time to make your designation. Are you going to be in this discussion a parliament member of Palestine, a Palestinian parliament member or Israeli parliament member? Please, and remain intellectually honest throughout the simulation and act as either Palestinian or Israeli parliament member. So, giving you 10 more seconds to make your decision. Publish the vote. We have 5 Palestinians and 5 Israelis parliament member. We also need someone to act as Israeli prime minister in order to demonstrate really that this is a different government from our federal government, and the Israeli prime minister will have a veto power. Rob, will you be willing to become Israeli prime minister in this simulation?
Oh boy, that's a daunting task.
Please.
I will try.
Okay, thank you.
Try my best.
And Libby, would you be willing to act as Palestinian president?
Yes.
Good, thank you. So from now on, let's try to assume that all of these areas in the assumptions have been met, and that we have elected a parliament. Oh, and I forgot. I am the president. We are assuming that Joseph was elected by 2 million, that me, Joseph, was elected by 2 million voters, and a Palestinian lady was elected by 1.5 million voters, and we will rotate in 2 years. So from now on, during the simulation, I am going to hold your feet to the fire, and you must pretend throughout this simulation that you are a parliament member. Libby, you must pretend that you are the president of Palestine. You are not a parliament member. You cannot vote.
Okay.
In our parliament. And Rob, you must pretend that you are an Israeli prime minister. You are not a parliament member. You cannot vote. You only have the right to veto the legislation. That's it.
Okay.
All right. Now that we created the federal government and we have parliament and we have a president and vice president, the first order of business that we have is to ratify the Constitution. Libby, would you be so kind as to read the Constitution?
Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights under the law and guaranteed human rights and freedom. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation does not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli governments, nor to abrogate or undermine any agreements between those governments. We recognize the need to work with the Israeli and Palestinian governments. Our purpose is to resolve conflicts and to expand the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis in a fair and equitable manner. We believe in equal rights under the law, guaranteed human rights, and freedom for all. We voluntarily give the legislatures and the governments of Israel and Palestine veto power over legislation we pass relating to the domain of control of those governments. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. We believe in having a separate judicial branch relating to IPC legislation with Israeli and Palestinian judges with a system to avoid biased decisions based on nationality.
Thank you. Before we discuss the Constitution and ask you if you have any questions, I just want to go back to what I said before. I forgot to mention again, because I wasn't planning to make that announcement, is that a person that I know who he is, but he wants to remain anonymous, has sent us $100,000 as seed money. He truly believed in the possibility of creating this federal government. He sent us $100,000, and that really precipitated our decision to move on and to try to collect a lot more money to have the election. Also, is Alan here? Alan? Because Alan, you have encouraged us to actually create the, too bad Alan is not here, to create the districts. And we are also in negotiation with a major mapping company to create the 300 districts. And that also looks very promising. So there are a lot of things in the air, and but it looks like it is a possibility to create the districts. We've done it before, but this is going to be done by a major mapping company that actually create districts for congressional elections all over the world, not only in America, but all over the world. And we are in negotiation with them. Hopefully they will give us a nonprofit status that would give us a substantial discount in obtaining their services. Okay, let's go back to the Constitution. Does anyone have any questions regarding the Constitution? All right, hearing no question, I will go to Professor Rabkin after we ratify the Constitution. We must ratify the Constitution. All Parliament members must ratify the Constitution. If you do not ratify the Constitution, you will be expelled from the Parliament, and someone else who received the second number of votes in your district, provided he or she accepts the Constitution, will become Parliament member. Let's have the Palestinian Parliament members please ratify the Constitution. Do you support the Constitution? You need to ratify it. Otherwise, you will not be part of the Parliament. You'll still be part of you're still a citizen and resident of Israel, Palestine, but you cannot be a part of the Parliament. All right, publish the vote. One person voted no. That person is expelled from the Parliament, and he or she will not be able to vote. Let's go to the Israeli Parliament members. Please ratify the Constitution. By the way, now that we are actually working on the election itself, a person will have to accept the Constitution when he or she signs up as candidates. And the polling for the Israeli, also one person voted no. He or she is expelled from the parliament. And but we have 80% acceptance of the Constitution. Hearing no questions, let's go to Professor Rabkin. Yakov, do you have any questions or comments regarding this Constitution? You need to unmute. I don't see him on the screen or on the Professor Rabkin.
He's probably away from his desk for a moment.
Okay, let's go on. Give him 5 more seconds to Professor Rabkin. Yakov, are you there?
I am there. Yes, I am
Okay.
there, and I can even show my face. Yeah.
You have any comments? We just ratified the Constitution. This is the parliament that has been elected, and we are just ratified a Constitution. Are you able to, or are you willing to give us any comments on this ratification?
Well, I'm glad that this has been ratified, but that's not surprising given the self-selection of the people who were voting. I'm not a constitutional scholar, so I really can't. I'm not able to comment on it. I think it looks very reasonable to a layman like me, because I repeat, I don't understand constitutional law. But I think it's a very good first step. Again, it could be amended later.
Well, the people who created the Constitution, the American Constitution, they were not constitutional scholars either. There was no Constitution before they created it.
True. You're right. However, Canadian experience is that Constitution was written by scholars and negotiated among different provinces. So, no, to me, that the articles of the Constitution look reasonable. But as with any written document, everything depends on how it's going to be applied.
Correct. The Constitution provides a system for transparency. It's not about trust, it's about transparency. So we can always go back to what we have agreed upon and check to see what we have agreed upon when we pass legislation. And what we have agreed upon is the Constitution that we all agreed upon.
Yeah, I'm not muted.
All right. So remember, we are now in a different mode. We are a parliament, and we have a system of government, a federal government. So this is a momentous occasion, creating a federal government, creating an election, creating a constitution, and ratifying the Constitution is a momentous occasion in the history of Israel-Palestine. Never in the history of humanity relating to the area of Israel-Palestine has there ever been a federal government, a constitution that has been agreed upon, or a democracy. There's never been a democracy that includes the area of Israel-Palestine. This is a momentous occasion in the history of humanity. It undermines the existing government's use of fear and hate to justify their action. It removes the collective stigma against Israelis and Palestinians that we are incapable of making peace, that we are undemocratic, that we are born to be fighting with each other forever. It gives us, the parliament members, and me, the president, huge political capital. Rob asked me earlier, why have you spent $100 million when nothing left in the coffin? That's exactly why, because now that we passed that we had the election and that we ratified the Constitution, we have huge political capital to collect a lot more funding from all over the world. It compels the governments and organizations of all over the world to contribute, and I am the president. I will make sure that they will contribute because I will discuss with them the ramifications of not contributing to a federal government that has just passed a constitution. It gives the Israeli and the Palestinians new self-image and provides the Israelis and the Palestinians that we are not a monolithic society. In other words, not all Palestinians and all Israelis think the same as other Palestinians and other Israelis. So, our first order of legislation is a veto power. We are giving a veto power by legislation to the Israeli and the Palestinian government. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation?
The Confederation is the government of the entire population of Israel and Palestine from the river to the sea. We recognize the Palestinian and Israeli governments and are seeking their cooperation to implement our vision for peace by giving them a veto. We will do our utmost to satisfy the essential needs of each government. We are pleading with the Palestinian and Israeli public to understand that while we would like to pass the best legislation possible to improve their lives, under these constraints, a perfect legislation is not possible. We hereby bestow a veto power relating to legislation affecting sovereignty to the following: the government of Israel on issues in which it is indispensable, the Palestinian government on issues in which it is indispensable. In the event of changes in the entirety of the Israeli or Palestinian governments, this legislation may be amended or repealed, subject to the IPC Constitution. The Parliament will decide on indispensability. Vetoes may be bestowed individually or collectively.
So the governments are indispensable when we pass legislation regarding the use of land or police force or removal of the wall. They are dispensable if we pass our own budgets or ratify the Constitution or appoint judges or ministers allocating our budgets. The reason we give them veto is it provides a safety net to both the Israeli and the Palestinian sides. They trust their government. We are a new government, so they would trust their government if we give them a veto power. It increases the likelihood that Palestinians and Israelis, voters and candidates would participate, and it decreases the Israeli and the Palestinian government's opposition and removes any claims that we are a subversive intentions. And it gives legal protection to the candidates and compels us, the federal government, to pass legislation that will be acceptable to both sides and gives us a platform for negotiation with a deadline. Before I go to Professor Rabkin, does anyone have any questions regarding this legislation? Let's vote on this legislation. Palestinian parliament members, please vote. Do you support this legislation? to give a veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian governments on matters in which they are indispensable. Let's go to the Israeli parliament. 100% of the Palestinian passed it. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. And by the way, the Israeli and the Palestinian governments do not have a veto power on this veto power legislation. Okay. We need 55% of the Israeli parliament members publish the vote. 67% of the Israeli parliament members voted yes. The two that voted no, could you please identify who you are?
Me. I don't recognize Israel as a state, so I cannot give it any power of veto.
Okay. How did you vote on the Constitution?
I approved it because I would like to still play the game. I would like to be in, but and nothing, as you said, nothing is perfect. So it's not perfect, but I accept the Constitution as is. I just don't like the idea that I give any power to the Judeo-Nazi government of Israel.
All right, let's go to who is the second person who voted no? All right, that person is not responding. Let's go to Professor Rabkin. Professor Rabkin, do you have any comments regarding this legislation that we just passed to give a veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian governments?
Well, I think it is important to provide this veto power, but I would like to backtrack a little bit and to say that Canadian experience from which I'm speaking, and particularly the experience of the province of Quebec in which I'm now residing, shows that agreeing on the Constitution was exceedingly difficult. It took the 10 provinces for many, many sessions to agree on the text of the Constitution, and the province of Quebec never approved it. So we live in a province which is part of Canada, but at the same time, the province has never approved the Canadian Constitution. And there were two referenda to separate from Canada. One of them was very close. It lost, but it really by 0.5%. So I'm just saying that the fact that one member of the parliament doesn't accept the Constitution shouldn't disqualify that person. Again, perhaps I'm speaking from this rather, some people may consider absurd experience where a separatist Quebec party is part of the federal government, but it is. And everything is channeled into the political realm, which is extremely important because therefore it's a non-violent realm. And particularly if we're talking about Israel and Palestine and the tremendous imbalance of forces between the two, channeling even those who don't agree with the Constitution, remaining members of parliament, of this federal parliament, I think might be a good idea.
So what are the ground rules upon which we will be able to pass legislation if they do not agree with the Constitution?
And as I just said, the province of Quebec never recognized the Constitution. The representatives of Quebec and the federal government, federal parliament in Ottawa vote. And at one point, that party was the official opposition, which means it was a second party in the parliament. So it does sound a little bit absurd, but I think it's important. It creates flexibility. So even if a member of the parliament in, say, Palestinian or Israeli member of the parliament doesn't recognize this constitution, he or she was elected and therefore is entitled to debate and to vote, even though they don't accept the constitution.
Does Canada have separation between government and religion?
I think the Constitution provides it. Let me ask someone. Miriam, does it provide separation between religion and state?
I've never heard otherwise, but yes, I think the answer is yes.
I think yes, but if I remember at least the 5-cent coin that used to have the image of Elizabeth II said that she was queen by
This is the answer.
divine grace. So, but again,
So institutional separation with cooperative neutrality.
That's the
no official state religion. Charter protects religion freedom. Supreme Court definition of state neutrality. So, but still there are religious elements that exist in public life.
Yeah. So it's, well, again, in the United States, there's separation, but what we are observing now is such a tremendous encroachment of religion onto politics. So in Canada, it's technically, it's not as separate as it is in the United States, but nor is it as prominent, the role of religion, as it is in the United States.
Do you think that in order to have a federal government in Israel and Palestine, it is essential to have a separation between government and religion?
No, I don't.
So well,
what separation, it doesn't mean by separation, I mean that if someone wants to be inspired by some, let's say, Sharia legislation in order to propose a law, there's no problem with that. What would be a problem if the federal government decides, but that's totally unrealistic, that there is a state religion? But obviously it'll never do so because there's a variety of religions. So if we look at the history of the land between the river and the sea, it was always multi-confessional, multi-ethnic, but as far as I remember, the Ottoman Empire didn't have separation of religion and state.
Yeah, the Ottoman Empire was not elected by the people of Palestine and Israel.
True. Well, I think there has to be a flexibility, I think.
Okay. Does the American Congress and Senate, do they have, in order to be in the Senate, do you have to swear allegiance to the American Constitution?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay. All right. But you've seen now our government pass this legislation to give a veto power. What are your comments regarding this passage of our parliament members giving a veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian governments on matters that they are indispensable?
Well, I think it is important because it'll ensure that there would not be any abuse of power. But again, in the current distribution of power, it's particularly important because practically no one has said a word how the predominant power of Israel will be moderated to make it a reasonable member of a federal entity, because there is such, I'm not talking even about re-education of the population, I'm talking about the raw power that is between the two parties is totally incomparable.
Yeah, I agree. But giving the Palestinian and the Israeli governments a veto power would elevate the status of the Palestinian government to that of the Israeli government in terms of that issue.
True, true. It is important, but I think it is just as important, if not more so, to remember the realities on the ground, to quote Ariel Sharon.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. We are remembering the reality on the ground, and we want to change the reality.
Right.
All right, let's go to the next issue, and that is our first legislation, and that is make peace with Iran, Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria. As we know, there is currently a war between Israel and Iran and Lebanon and Yemen. I'm not sure about Syria, but it's been going on and off. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation?
We, the elected members of Parliament of the Confederation Government of Israel Palestine, affirm our responsibility to serve the people of this land with integrity, accountability, and an unwavering commitment to peace. For more than a century, the peoples of Israel, Palestine, and the broader Middle East have endured recurring cycles of war, violence, and instability. From Iran to Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and beyond, generations have suffered from the failure of governments and political actors to secure lasting peace. We believe that a new path is necessary. Accordingly, we are taking the initiative to safeguard all people living in Israel, Palestine, and to advance a vision of regional stability that can extend across the Middle East. Peace for our peoples cannot remain an aspiration. It must become a deliberate and organized effort. To this end, we will establish official parliamentary delegations to engage directly with the authorities of Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iran. The purpose of these delegations is to open channels of dialogue, promote mutual de-escalation, and work toward binding commitments to cease violence and threats among all parties. Our role will be to advocate firmly for an immediate cessation of hostilities and incitement, mutual recognition of the right of all peoples in the region to live in security and dignity, structured negotiations aimed at achieving durable and verifiable peace. We will serve as an impartial facilitator and promoter of peace, guided by fairness, objectivity, and the protection of our people. Where governments or entities endanger regional stability or threaten civilian life, we will speak clearly and responsibly. Our commitment is to peace, security, and a future in which the peoples of this region can finally live without fear. And so this is pursuant to Article 2, Section 21 of the IPC Constitution. Neither the Israeli nor the Palestinian government holds veto authority over this act.
Yeah, because we are doing it unilaterally and they are dispensable. Does anyone have any questions regarding this legislation? Okay, hearing no questions, let's go to the Palestinian parliament members. Please vote on this legislation. Do you support this legislation? Palestinian parliament members. Okay, publish the vote. 83% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. One person voted no. Could you please identify who you are? Okay. Please know that in we are completely transparent. A person in the parliament will not be able to vote without the public knowing how he or she voted. So keep that in mind. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Israeli parliament, do you support this legislation? We need 55%. 5 more seconds to vote. Please publish the vote. Of those who voted, 6 out of 6 voted yes, 100% voted yes. So I'm sorry, Mrs. President of Palestine, you are not given a veto power. We're going to do it on our own, and so is the Prime Minister of Israel. We're going to do this on our own. You have no veto power over this. Let's go to Yakov Rabkin, Professor Yakov Rabkin. Do you have any comments regarding this legislation?
Well, it's a bit strange legislation because it takes 2 to tango, and here it takes 5 to tango. It's an intention, but in order to make peace, you need the agreement of all the parties. And I think that in a matter of peace negotiations, parliaments usually ratify, they don't take the initiative. So this is highly unusual and doesn't really spell hope for a successful negotiation, because negotiation need to be conducted privately. They need to be conducted by all the interested parties, and only then the parliament would ratify the agreement. Here you start from the other end. I would say that this make peace with Iran, Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria should be approved by the parliament as a declaration of intention, but not more than that.
Well, we are establishing a delegation, preliminary delegations, to engage directly with the authorities in Israel, Palestine, and Lebanon. We're not asking their permission. We are doing this on our own. We are traveling to all these countries in order to investigate. We are not dictating what the peace would be. We are just trying to be an objective fact finders at this point.
Well, again, usually it's done by the executive branch, not by the legislative branch. All the peace negotiations I'm familiar with were conducted by executive branches of respective governments, but it may be the first in history, but fine.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with being the first in history, but keep in mind, Professor, that we have parliament members that are Christian, Muslim, and Jews. We want to go with a large delegation that represents Christian, Muslim, and Jews and secular people to all these countries. Not so if I am the president and the vice president, one Israeli, that's not one Palestinian. That's not deep enough for these countries to find us deep enough and credible enough to discuss openly with us. It makes it a lot easier to discuss openly with all these governments if it's Christian, Muslim, and Jews, and that's why we chose this route rather than the executive route.
Well, let's imagine that you negotiate with Syria, and Syria raises the issue of Golan Heights and some more territory that Israel grabbed recently. Does the federal delegation have jurisdiction, has power to negotiate on these issues?
We have none. We have no jurisdiction to negotiate. What we want to explore the truth. We want to go to Iran and ask them, for example, do you have an intention to uh, to annihilate us, the people that live in this area, or do you have a what are your true intentions? We don't want to get the information about you from the Prime Minister of Israel, and vice versa. We don't want to get the information about Israel from Iran. We want to go and explore the issues. That's all it is. It's an exploration mission to tell the people of the Palestine and Israel and the people of Iran, Syria, what the truth is, what we found out before we can negotiate.
Before you can negotiate, or the two governments?
Yes, before we can come up with legislation or negotiate, we just want to know what the truth is. Are these real threats, or are these empty threats that are pushing us into constant wars? That's all we want to find out, because all we know right now is what the governments tell us, and these governments are not trustworthy.
Well, if they're not trustworthy, they will be your interlocutors, and you'll get the same message from them. I hate to be the devil's advocate, but I think it's part of my role.
Yes.
I really think, well, first of all, the formulation of the question to the Iranian government would be highly offensive, and I would extremely offensive. It would derail right away everything. Secondly, if you want to find...
You're making assumptions here.
No, it's not an assumption. I can imagine if I stand and says, do you have the intention of annihilate someone? Well, I think that would be the end of the conversation.
Well, that's what you think. But are you saying that because you think that would be the end of the conversation, we should be precluded from asking that question?
Of course, because your question reflects Western propaganda and Israeli propaganda. And
okay, so they will be able to answer that question. They will say what you just said.
Well, it's up to you, but this is a small detail. But what I'm saying is that in order to find out the intentions of of respective governments, you don't need a parliamentary delegation to do that. You may do it, but it's really not necessary. For example, the question you asked has been answered many, many, many times by Iranian officials and by independent observers. The only people who wouldn't take yes for an answer is the current Prime Minister of Israel and his company. So I'm laughing because it's laughable to ask such a question.
Well, we'll change the question. Let us change the question. That's all.
Sorry?
It's not going to be a single question, and it's not going to be a discussion that is in the media. It's going to be a discussion by us, the people who reside there, not representing a Zionist entity or a Palestinian entity, but representing the people of Palestine and Israel, coming in good faith to know, are there real issues between Israel and Palestine? Are you saying that that's not a good idea?
Yes, it is.
Can I intervene? And
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
having really not, hi, I'm his daughter, and I'm not at all related to this issue, but I do, hi, everybody. Just
Hello.
like as a side, what about, because I'm reading the legislation, I think the spirit of the legislation is very important, and I think we need to maintain that spirit. However, I get my dad's point about parliamentary delegations might be, that could be like the long term vision, but there could be like official white papers. There could be essentially this is an engagement on the part of the new Israeli-Palestinian Confederation to aspire to this. And this could be like the longer term goal. I mean, I think that what you're trying to say is let's put into legislation the fact that this is our aspiration. How it will happen, the means to the end, whether it's official parliamentary delegations, whether it's a white paper, where it's policies from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, whether it's in, quiet discussions and quiet diplomacy. There are many ways to do this. It doesn't have to be an official parliamentary delegation. I think the issue, the issue is actually those lines, whereas there's so many ways to conduct diplomacy. But otherwise, I think
Yeah, there are many ways,
right, and I think that's maybe the sticking point. I'll move out here, but I just wanted to add that to the conversation.
Okay, good. Thank you. There are many ways. We have just been elected, and this is what we chose to do. We are the parliament that has been chosen. Saying there are many ways to do things is not is true. But at the end of the day, you have to decide on a way, and this is what we have decided to do.
Okay.
And you saw the parliament members have agreed to it.
It's fine. It's fine with me. I think the main, actually, in the article that you mentioned that you received from me a couple of hours ago, I do say that if there is a solution of the problem between the river and the sea, and there is a federal government, federal parliament, I think Iran or any other country won't have any problem with the rest.
I agree. I totally agree.
So
I totally agree. And that's, yeah. All right. Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next.
Yeah, it's the oppression of the Palestinians that causes the hostility of the Islamic Republic of Iran. We have to be very conscious of that if you have a federal parliament, therefore this oppression is over. And if it is over, well, then there's no issue.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I mean, that's why we are pushing for this. All right. All right. Thank you. Let's go to the next legislation. And I hope that you come to the same conclusion on this next legislation too. And that is future of Gaza. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation?
All right. The Gaza region, with a population of
2.26, the number, yes.
Million people, elected 44 members to parliament. Legislation, number 1. The destinies of the Israeli and Palestinian peoples are inseparably linked. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation provides a democratic vision for stability, prosperity, and peace. The IPC declares an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. We are demanding the Israeli and Palestinian governments to abide by the ceasefire agreements. The IPC shall launch a national reconstruction campaign to rebuild homes, roads, hospitals, civic institutions, and critical infrastructure, enabling the prompt return of displaced residents of Gaza to their communities. The IPC proclaims the restoration of law, order, and civil society as a national priority, recognizing that peace is impossible without justice and social stability. The IPC shall retain authority over the Gaza Strip until a new, freely and fairly elected Palestinian government assumes power in Gaza in accordance with the democratic principles. The Palestinian Authority and Hamas shall agree to hold an elections within a year for the creation of a Palestinian government. All legislative, executive, and judicial decisions related to Gaza shall be enacted by the IPC government pursuant to the IPC Constitution, in cooperation with the government of the United States, all Arab states in the region, and the government of Israel and Palestine. The IPC calls upon the international community, including the governments of Israel and Palestine, to provide a $50 billion grant to fund this urgent reconstruction and reconciliation effort. And this is pursuant to Article 2, Section 21 of the IPC Constitution. The Israeli and the Palestinian governments are granted veto power over this act.
Yeah, so you do have veto power over this legislation because it does encroach on your sovereignty. Does anyone have any questions regarding this legislation? Sorry. Hearing no question, let's have the Palestinian parliament members vote on this legislation. Do you support this legislation? Publish the vote. One person voted no. Could you please identify who you are? Okay, let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Publish the vote. 4 out of 4, 100% voted yes. Mrs. President of Palestine, are you going to veto this legislation?
No, I am not.
And Prime Minister of Israel, are you going to veto this legislation?
Yes, I am.
Are any changes that you wish to be made to this legislation for you to?
Israel does not recognize the authority of the IPC in this matter. We have to secure our own protection. We defend ourselves. And until we have eradicated Hamas and we secure our own borders and how Israel can live at peace, we are not prepared to have anybody else involved in this process. We have spent an immense amount of effort in terms of cleaning out Gaza, and we will reconstruct it as we feel fit. It is our right, and we will not be prepared to accept any interference from the outside on this matter.
You said that you do not recognize the legitimacy of the IPC. We were elected.
Certainly not in this matter, no.
But do you recognize the legitimacy of the IPC as the federal government of Israel and Palestine?
Well, we think it's a bit of a laughable initiative.
We have 5 million people voted for us.
Yeah, well, we're in charge of those 5 million people.
I understand, but you have not been receiving any voters, any Palestinian voters. You're in charge of Palestinian people who have never been voted, who've never been given the right to vote and never voted for you. Do you feel comfortable with that?
Absolutely. This is how it works.
Okay. Any changes that you can see for this legislation that will make it acceptable to you?
Yes, if you give us authority to make sure that we conclude the full eradication of all attacks upon Israel, and for us to be in control of our own destiny in the land that belongs to us.
Any line that you are referring to?
Well, I think
what line do you want us to change?
I think you'd have to rewrite the whole thing.
Okay, now you are engaged in a war with Iran at this time and with Gaza, correct?
It is correct, with a number of people, and we will continue to engage in that war until we have eradicated all the enemies of Israel.
What are your plans for the reconstruction of Gaza?
Well, that's for us to decide, and for the for the enjoyment of our own people.
Okay, so you're basically being vague and ambiguous about your intentions on everything. You are an illegitimate government. You control people without legitimacy. And I am the president of the whole area. I was elected by 5 million, I'm sorry, by 2 million people. 5 million people participated in the election. When is your next election?
I think that's for us to decide. We don't interfere with any other country unless they pose a threat to us, and so we will make our own decisions in these matters.
All right. Are you going to make it public, or are you going to be secretive about the date of the election?
No, I mean it'll be reported by the news broadcasts, as happens in any other country.
Okay. So, as the president of the federal government, I can assure you, since you're being so vague and so uncooperative and engaged in constant war, I can assure you that I will do my utmost to have you unelected. You can laugh for as much as you want, but I will make sure that you'll to tell the people of your country and the people of the world that you are a person that is anti-peace, anti-Israel, anti the Jewish people, because you want the Jewish people to continue to be in constant wars, and have you demonstrated that throughout your tenure as prime minister. And
everything that we do is for our own security and in self-defense. We are under attack.
Yeah.
And that is not restricted to just Palestine, it's other countries of the world. I think we have adequate support from those who see sense in the world.
All right.
And yeah.
Okay, I think we exhausted this this discussion. Let's go to Professor Yakov Rabkin.
Well, actually, I commend the Prime Minister of Israel for being very frank. He has not been vague. He was extremely precise, and that has reflected the policy of Israel since 1948. So I don't see any vagueness in what we heard. It does spell an end of that the initiative concerning peace and concerning governance of Gaza. And that, I think, is an insurmountable difficulty given, again, the total disproportion of forces. So I think that this indeed is a problem which can only be settled by force. And that's what the Prime Minister of Israel has been alluding to, that in the world of today, as Stephen Miller of the White House recently said, the rules are dictated by power. And Israel has always pursued this. For Israel, it's nothing new. What is new is that it's being announced openly in the White House. And therefore, I think that the governments of Gaza, and in fact, even the peace agreements with other countries, will stumble upon the historical habit of the government of Israel to rely on force alone.
Do you believe that the Prime Minister of Israel, being played by Rob here,
By Baron,
by Rob? Do you think that he actually represent what would have been the Prime Minister of Israel had these elections actually taken place? Does he take into consideration the fact that 5 million people have voted or is he acting as if none of this had happened?
Well, what I hear is an authentic voice of Israel.
Correct.
And what it can be later, it's a conjecture that it's very hard to
Yeah.
imagine. And in fact, if Israel continues to have elections, it'll take immense efforts of re-education of Israeli population, because the current government of Israel and what Rob was saying represents the vast majority of Israelis. It'll take a long time to re-educate them, and I'm afraid it's only an utter military defeat that may sober them up.
So I want to go back to the assumptions. Are these assumptions realistic? Could we get 5 million total voters, 3 million Palestinians, and 2 million Israelis? Going back to these assumptions, when I asked you earlier, you seemed to say that it is a realistic achievement.
No, I think
And
it's
now that you saw how Rob is acting as the Prime Minister of Israel, are you backtracking on this?
No, I'm not backtracking. So let's say 2 million, well, the 3 million Palestinians is easy. So we don't have to discuss it. 2 million Israelis is just as easy, because even if every Palestinian Israeli votes for this, that makes it about 2 million. And there are some remnants of the left in Israel, vestiges. So if they vote, they can make for 2 million, but it will not be legitimate for the vast majority of Israelis.
Yeah, okay, but would 5 million people voting, does that carry any political force, or is this something that could just be ignored as nothing happened?
Well, given the current situation, I think it can be ignored.
It could be ignored, but look, this has never been done before. We never had a federal government before. So my question to you, I mean, I don't know if you have the expertise to make an opinion, but as someone who is familiar with Israeli culture, I assume that you speak Hebrew too, right?
I do.
So have you lived in Israel for a while?
I spent 4 sabbaticals there, 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. So you are familiar with the Israeli culture, and given what you are familiar with, and do you think that 5 million people voting will have any effect, or will just be ignored?
They will be ignored.
Okay. All right. Sorry to hear what you said, but I disagree with you. I don't think it will be ignored.
Oh, just a second. You mean that the remaining 8 million or whatever, 7 million Israelis will recognize it? That's what you mean?
No. I mean, politically, will these 300 parliament members and the president and vice president, will they have political power to make changes in Israel Palestine, even if the Jewish population in Israel is mocking it or ignoring it?
Well, if we base ourselves on the past experience, any 18-year-old soldier of the Israeli Defense Force had more power than the entire Palestinian parliament taken together.
I don't know what do you mean. What do you mean by that?
Wow.
An 18-year-old soldier sent to the West Bank or Gaza for that matter, but let's say West Bank, has more power, more practical power than the entire Palestinian parliament.
Well, you mean the Palestinian parliament or the IPC parliament?
No, I'm talking about Palestinian parliament because we are talking about the balance of power between the two.
Oh, okay. But how is that related to our conversation here about electing 300 parliament members?
That 18-year-old soldier will just ignore it.
Okay, so isn't democracy gets its legitimacy from the people? You seem to be suggesting that the power of the gun is greater than the power of legitimacy.
Israel definitely has pursued this for all its history.
Mhm.
And that mode of thinking cannot be crumbled by any other forces,
Yes, by forces, yes.
by military forces.
By the United States.
Uh,
No,
by
United States. No, I don't think United States. I think Israel is prepared to live alone as a super Sparta and ignore the United States. But let's bring the United States in because we just talk about the Israeli culture, which Rob expressed, I think, very correctly. Self-defense, we decide, it's our land. That's the standard approach in Israel. So you may have this election, you may have all that, and Israel will just ignore it.
Okay, Rob.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment out of character if I can. So this is Rob speaking.
Yeah.
Um, I think very much that regardless of any outside advancement or interference, a people who are actively engaged in oppression will double down. They will no amount of sanctions of anything is going to change the views. They are going to get even more adamant that they can go it alone. And I speak from a perspective of having lived in South Africa and grown up there and seen what happens when a country who is oppressing their people, what they do, and effectively they're proud. They become even more adamant in taking control and saying, we are able to protect ourselves. The rest of the world is wrong. We are the only ones who are on the side of right. And I don't think this is unusual. I think this is to be expected.
Okay, Libby.
Yeah, I hope it's okay to not ask a question. I just wanted to share what I'm feeling right now, and that is, it feels to me like with the news that's happening and how much the Middle East is being pulled in, many countries, many innocent bystanders being killed in Iran, where the students were killed in the school. It just feels to me like now is the time to think totally new. And if we could bring people to the table and kind of following what you talked about, Joseph, having a sort of a collective of people going and talking and meeting with others, I feel like this is what's missing. And that as long as it's the top government officials who have the power, the military, and the nuclear threats stay in control, we can't change. But if enough people begin to participate in bringing about a world that works for everybody, if we could be able to have these discussions so that everybody feels heard, and I know this sounds very idealistic, but it's the only thing that's going to really work in the long run, and we have to start at some point. And I feel like now is really the point because people are scared. People in America are frightened. They see what's happening in the world. And, even if it's just our daily oil prices going up, people are awakening to the big picture and our interconnectedness. So I don't know. I just feel like if we're going to do it, now is the time. Strike while the iron is hot. Engage as many people as possible. Bring people to the table. Don't leave anybody out. We really have to figure out how to make this a movement of the people that works for the most people. And Netanyahu is a terrorist. I think Trump is a terrorist. These are not people looking for fixes for the citizens. These are people who want to hold on to power for whatever reason. Maybe it's to stay out of jail, maybe it's to stay rich. But we have to think new. We have to find people who are really, really looking for a solution that meets the masses. So I think we need to do it now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Libby. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Shlomo.
Is it time for discussion or
Yes.
okay. So
Yeah,
I have a question to Professor Rabkin. Many questions, but I'll ask only two. One, if you are the king of the world, if you can make order here, what would you do in the Middle East, especially in Palestine? That's question number one. And then after you answer, I will have another question, which is not less important.
Yeah, I tend to change my opinions with time, but there is one article that I published in 2002 in Tikkun magazine in California, in which I suggested in 2002 that the only viable structure of political organization would be a one state for all the inhabitants between the river and the sea. Again, basing my experience in Canada and other places. Since then, I have not changed my opinion, but the public opinion in Israel has changed even more dramatically against this idea.
Yeah, unfortunately, because that's look to me like the only solution right now. I don't see there is no two-state solution and all of that was nice, but no. Yeah. The
But
other
so let me just follow up on that. Yakov, do you see our proposal for federal government contradictory to your view of one state?
I think it's a step in a good direction.
Yeah.
Do you
I think Shlomo had a second question.
yes.
That's okay. No, that's okay. Go ahead, Joseph. I will, because you are still in this. Because my other question is completely different area.
So I'm walking out from you with mixed feelings, Yakov.
That's good.
Maybe good for you. Should we continue proposing an election or give up on it?
I think it is important to continue because we have to make all the efforts to bring about peace, whatever chances of success. Again, there is this famous statement in one of the Jewish texts, like Pirkei Avot, it's not up to you to finish the job, but you cannot desist from it. Lo alecha malacha legmor. So I think that it's important to do it. It's important to push forward, but also be aware that in today's world so far, and particularly in Israel, the vote of 5 million Palestinians and quote unquote traitors to Israel will make no difference to the mainstream society. But what may change is the outcome of this current war. We'll see how it all develops. But I think it is important to continue this effort without, however, expecting particularly the Israeli government to respond positively.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, the other question I had is maybe more general. Whatever scenario will happen, Israel will be defeated in the United States, or there will be some agreement with Iran eventually, or whatever scenario, whatever will happen. What do you think the effect on the Jews in general in the world will be? Already we see signs, but do you see any hope, any way out? Because I think the Jews are, whether they like it or not, they are in it. They are being conflated with it, and I am very worried. That's why I'm asking. I'm very worried about Israel. Of course, I have brother and sister there. Okay, I think Israel is committing suicide, but and genocide, etc. But still, what is the larger effect?
Well, I think that Israel has been endangering Jews from day one. Now this danger has increased immensely. At the same time, more and more Jews realize this danger and become disaffected from Israel. At the same time, and particularly in the context of the infringement on freedom of expression that is associated, rightly so, with Jewish billionaires who are behind it, may create, most probably will create, a tremendous backlash. The intensity of which, of course, I cannot predict. And that's why I personally, for the last quarter of a century, have been writing and speaking, explaining to people the difference between Jews and Zionists. It has been an uphill battle because the Israeli government does everything to conflate the two. And it's a win-win situation for the Israeli government. If there is more anti-Semitism, more Jews will come to Israel, so much the better. And I think that Jews who have a soft spot for Israel, who stand by Israel and so on, they are in a situation of cognitive dissonance. And I remember meeting members of the Jewish Board of Deputies, I think it's called, in Cape Town, when I was visiting South Africa. And we had a very pleasant lunch. And in the evening, I was to speak during the Israel Apartheid Week at the University of Cape Town. And they said, well, every time Israel does something to the Palestinians, we feel it because there are demonstrations, there is accusations, there may be even violence. Could you tell tonight to your audience that we are not responsible? I say, why don't you say that? That you don't stand by Israel. But that was too much for them. They wanted me to say that. And I think for many Jews who have been honestly supporting Israel as a cherished hope, and I fully understand their feelings, it's high time to wake up and to cast aside this political monster.
Yeah, yeah. Amazingly, most congregations, I think maybe all congregations of Jews all over, they are not there to stand up and say Israel to announce that they are against what Israel is doing and against Israel itself and the whole Zionism idea, and they won't do it. None of them.
Well, no, quite a few do it, and the fact that I think one third of the votes given to Mamdani in New York were Jewish votes. So, no, there are quite a few Jews who do speak out and who don't identify with the Zionist entity. So it's and that number is growing. The problem is that those who speak in the name of Jews, on behalf of Jews, are plutocrats who don't represent anyone except the state of Israel.
Yeah, I know. And I know many Jews who are definitely against what Israel is doing and against Zionism. But do you see any congregation, like formal kind of group, some kind of synagogue or temple, that they would stand and say, we are against?
Yes.
Okay, good.
All right, let's go to Sean and then to Rob.
Mr. Rabkin, you can hear me, right? I'm sorry. You hear me?
Sean, what happened to your microphone?
I don't know.
You fixed it last time.
I don't know. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, we hear you a little bit.
Okay. Just for one question, for Mr. Rabkin, do you think with what's going on concerning Netanyahu, because what's going on and Iran attacking Israel and the Jews in Israel are feeling endangered, do you think they're going to hate Netanyahu even more, or they support his path and what he's doing? Or
You mean the people in Israel?
yeah, do you think with what's going on, like they're changing their opinion about Israel, when he was saying about how Israel endangers the Jewish people, and with what's going on, it's just showing them in their face that this is they're endangering their life, and then they're getting mad at the Israeli government for that. Do you think this is what they're doing, or they're fully supporting Israel with what it's doing? But right now, with the consequences of Israel, what it's facing, do you think right now the people in Israel are just seeing something else than what their government, the Israeli propaganda, is telling them? Yeah.
Yakov, were you able to hear the question? My understanding of Sean's question is do the people of Israel, is their support for Netanyahu growing, or is it getting less because of the dichotomy of the war and his own personal issues being charged with crimes?
Yes, that's my question. Yes.
Well, I didn't see the latest polls. I don't know, but it definitely has been growing with the genocide in Gaza, that's for sure. So I would expect that they rally around the flag now as well. But the issue is not people who are opposed to Netanyahu who are not opposed. They're all for segregation and apartheid on both ends. And that's the important part, because that is the key of hostility towards Israel. It's the apartheid nature. It's not the personality of Netanyahu. And what I observe is that I was in Israel and I saw these huge demonstrations against him related to the judicial reform. And the opposition, the demonstration, was proving in huge posters how Zionist they are and how bravely they fought in the wars. So whatever they think about judicial reform, they're all Zionists.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Rob?
Yeah, very quickly. Yeah, on that, I have put some points in the chat. I think the IPC would, and going ahead, I have a positive view to that. I think it will have an impact, even if it's unsuccessful eventually. It will interfere with the current narrative It'll show that there are solutions besides what is currently being manipulated. And I've mentioned a few points there. I'm not going to repeat them here unless you want me to. But for me, it certainly is beneficial. And just on that, similarly, those who have expressed that the only solution, and I would support this, is one country with justice and equality. Anything else is just a recipe for further disaster, further interference, further apartheid.
I agree. Okay, so let me make some concluding remarks. A common democratic confederation government can bring peace. Peace is the only vision. Online elections are feasible and can be held securely. 1 week of war, I wrote here 3 billion, but it's a lot more now. The current governments are not legitimate in the entire area of Israel, Palestine. And like Rob said, democracy, we need one government for the whole area. One country is the best solution. After participating, well, there is no point. There is no point in doing another survey because 100% of you support it. So I would like to thank Yakov Rabkin for your generosity and willingness to participate in our simulation. And I'd like to thank all of you and keep in mind that we are moving forward. Like Libby said, I had a meeting with one election company before. I have another meeting, well, actually several meetings, but there is another meeting with a major election company and this coming Tuesday. We'll have more meetings, and hopefully we can start moving forward to have the online election. So again, thank you so much, all. Thank you, Yakov Rabkin, for your generosity and your willingness to I see here something about sharing the link. Yes, I'll share the link of your article about that you sent me today.
Good. And I would like to thank you very much for the invitation. It was an honor, and I consider it as extremely important that you continue your effort. We have to be realistic, but in order to achieve peace, I mean, to stop the bloodshed and oppression, we have to hope and we have to work. And even if we won't see it ourselves, maybe our children will.
Hopefully, we will see it ourselves.
Amen.
Can I add your name as a supporter to our website, on our website?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you all, and thank you for participating. We'll see you in the next simulation.
Thank you very much, Professor Rabkin. This is our honor, not yours.
Thank you.